Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 22 of the Sim Racing in Focus podcast. We're a podcast that talks about sim racing, in particular the Australian iRacing scene. I'm your host, Dean Reddit, once again, and I'm also joined by co-host Jacob Packets-Hughes. Mate, how are you doing on this fine winter's evening?
Yeah, I'm pretty warm, I guess. That's been pretty cold, but
I've got the heater blaring. It's been bloody chilly, that's for sure. Mate, it's just you and I this tonight for this next episode of the podcast. It's been a little while. I think it was March since we last released an episode, so we've got a bit of ground to cover.
yeah.
What have you been?
To be fair, we have been trying to make it happen, and it's just
it's been rescheduled quite a few times. So
yep,
that's right. You have a few attempts, and then you have a busy period, and then you don't attempt to reorganize, and then it's been a struggle, but we've got back there eventually, thank God.
Yep.
But anyways, what have you been up to in the last 3 months, mate? Like, have you been doing much racing at all, or what's happening in your world?
You're gonna laugh, but I haven't. I think the only actual official, I haven't even been doing any league racing like at all, but I think the only official racing I've actually done since the last podcast is I've done a couple of rallycross races. That's about it.
What possessed you to do rallycross races?
I don't know. I just jumped in one day and I threw my round wheel back on and I just jumped in it and I was like, oh, actually having a bit of fun with this. And then, started having a lob with a couple of officials. And then, now I'm just trying to get out of rookies for next season. And be committed.
Oh, so you haven't dropped all money on new content, have you, in the rallycross scene?
No. I bought the WRX like a long time ago, but I don't even have a license to race that anyway. So I'm like, if I actually put some time in, I might be able to actually use that car.
Fair enough, too. They're due some new cars over on that side of things, aren't they? Like, it's been a while.
Yeah, the dirt side has had not much going on. And I always love to, like, when like development update like drops on like Facebook and that, or Instagram or even on YouTube, and there's always the comments on there, like people just asking for some dirt oval track or dirt oval car, and they're like, "Oh, what about the dirt guys?" There's always someone saying that. Like it's pretty funny. Like it sucks for them, but like it's pretty funny because you always see those comments like every time.
The ugly stepchild of iRacing is the dirt ovals. Or dirt in general, but which is a surprise because there's so many cool cars and stuff that get around in the rallycross side of things in particular.
Rallycross is actually like really fun. Like I think the Beetle Light is actually really fun because it's not very fast. It's a pretty slow one, but like I've driven like the WRX and that, and it's so hard, but it's pretty fun to drive, and it's a bit odd because it's just like I'm actually surprised there isn't bigger numbers than what there are. But I think a lot of the times, like a lot of the numbers they're always in time slots that don't suit our country, I think, or like our time zone. I think a lot of them are like US based time slots. So probably when we're sleeping, it's probably when the splits are actually going off on those things.
Yeah. If it's not free content. You have to get into an overseas split. Yeah. Yep. Oh, well, there's not much chop there for the rallycross side of things.
No.
But, so you've not been doing a whole lot of racing, but like you said before, we've had a few things come up that have postponed the recording of this episode. So it was good to see, though, that you were practicing probably... Well, it's arguably your best sim racing trait, and that was some sandbagging in that time off. You're
doing legitimate sandbagging.
Legitimate sandbagging. One of the reasons we couldn't get an episode out is because you were flooded in, mate. So it's lucky you had plenty of experience in carrying sandbags around. But what was that
was
like?
so
Mate?
funny.
You got pretty hairy there at one stage, didn't it?
Yeah, we had water everywhere, and I think a lot of people did during that period. But yeah, like we obviously one of the luckier ones, like nothing got damaged in that. But yeah, there was a couple of moments there where I was just like, oh shit, and wasn't really sure what was going to happen. But yeah, it was pretty funny about when I went down there and started getting the sandbags and that. I was just like, I saw them, and the first thing that came to my mind, I was just like, oh, I need to make a joke about sandbagging and racing. It's the first thing that came to my mind.
Sandbags come out of the boot and around the house, so that's all right. But yes, we were involved in the East Coast Low in Australia over here in New South Wales. So it's at mid-north coast, and a lot of the Hunter region were pretty badly flooded just a couple of weeks ago now. And so obviously anyone that's out there that's in those scenarios, Packets knows what you're going through.
Yeah, I still can't even walk down the side of my house. It's like a slop fest, eh? It's so much water in the soil still. Like, it's crazy.
I was lucky that where I live, we're okay. But where I work, we had pretty extensive cleanup and stuff go on. In around the Newcastle area. So lots of floodwaters and just there was 1 week there. I think I did 14 hours of overtime in the week. Just you just can't record. You can't. I was absolutely. It took me a week to get over that. I think I was spring chicken like. So yeah, it's been an interesting time. So unfortunately, we couldn't forego the overtime to record the podcast. Maybe next time I'll do that though. Oh dear, very good.
It's funny that we were just talking before, like, and you said that we haven't been busy, haven't been doing much, but actually I have been busy because you got a different background now. You notice, relocated the room to another room.
That's right. I nearly brushed over the fact that you've got a brand new casting couch right there.
Yeah,
and you look fully qualified to talk about sim racing with all those guitars hanging on the wall behind you. So do you actually play? You play a bit of guitar?
It was really funny then because I was like, "You already know the answer to this," but I realized it's actually for a podcast. So.
Yeah.
It was like, we grew up together, you should already know this.
I'd really love to be able to say that you made the intro music or something to the podcast. Maybe that's something that we can commission you to do that down the track. Although I'm pretty sure it would be a meme. That's what I would get out of it.
You probably wouldn't like what I'd dish out.
Yeah, it wouldn't be serious, that's for sure.
No.
Oh, very good. So you've done a lot of you've commandeered another room in the house to set up for your hobbies. So that's good going. So you've been moving.
Yeah, I'm in the theatre room now, so we don't have a theatre room anymore. So, well, it worked out pretty well because the other room, had the sim, had the computer up, but then the missus was studying, and then I decided to pull all her cricket stuff in there as well. So I was just like, it's pretty crammed in here. And then actually the suggestion wasn't even my idea. It was actually the wife's idea to bring it all into here. And I was like, you sure? And then this room was just literally full of boxes. We hadn't even sorted this room out yet since moving in. So we spent a couple of weeks at it, and now it's pretty well dialed in. Heaps more room, and got some sound, like hexagon things on the wall for sound deadening. Got some shelving I've done in here, lights everywhere, and it's nice in here now. It's good.
Yeah, I'll appreciate the lengths you're going to for this podcast.
Yeah.
Assuming that's why you've done it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was the main reason I did this. I hope it pays off.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Oh, well, it is us two tonight, but we were initially expecting a third, who shall remain anonymous for now because we will have to reschedule. But he's tied up with the Nürburgring 24-hour and a late withdrawal, so we are recording this episode.
He got disqualified for cheating or something, apparently. I don't know. Some red line driver or something.
We've got to work got to work a fair bit harder before we can get one of those guys on the show. But
they wouldn't be right now, that's for sure.
No, that's right. Maybe they're offering services out to come on and talk about it. But we are talking about the N24 hour tonight. So in case you haven't guessed, we're recording it on I think the last split is not quite officially finished yet. So hence why we don't have our guest tonight. He's still underway there.
Is it still going tomorrow morning? Is that right?
I think it's midnight tonight. Perhaps it finishes. But he's covering a late withdrawal on his team side of things. So he may drop in. We don't know. But if not, we'll have him in the next episode. So at least listeners can. At least listeners can look forward to the fact that we actually have something in the pipeline now, and it's not going to be 3 months till the next episode. So famous last words. Yeah. I hope that video is capturing you just pouring out your red wine right now. It is too. You're all class, mate, on the red wines. Fantastic.
Yep.
So,
too, mate. On the Snoop Dogg.
There's no fancy alcohol sponsors for this show, unfortunately. We're open to any offers though. Okay, great. So we've had to shorten tonight's episode a little bit, but on tonight's episode we will cover obviously a little bit of the fallout from the N24 hour race, and if you weren't aware of what happened there, we will enlighten you with our expert analysis in the not too distant future. We'll also cover the iRacing developers blog that was released probably a week ago now, that's sort of highlighted some of the new features that are coming in this upcoming season build. And lo and behold, Australia has a new world champion in the Porsche Evolution. I've been told that that's wrong. It's Porsche Esports Super Cup. And I keep calling it Evolution for some God knows reason. It's just burnt on my brain. That's what it is, and it's incorrect.
There's a lot of evolution or revolution or devolution or there's a lot of Lucian teams getting around these days. It's probably throwing you off a bit.
I know. It's burnt on my brain and it's wrong. And it's not the first time I've been pulled up on it either. But I'll try and get it right for that segment. So we're just going to cover a couple of topics there on tonight's episode. But Packets, let's start with you. Did you enjoy any festivities in the Nürburgring 24 hour this weekend?
There's a bit of juicy drama in it, which is what I froth on the most of it. It was actually funny because I was watching Malone stream at like midnight last night, and there's people in the comments and they're like, "Oh, Redline just got disqualified," blah blah blah, blah. And like the race had only been going for so long, and they thought everyone was trolling them in the chat. They're like, "Nah, what are you talking about?" And then, sure enough, like watch the iRacing broadcast, and sure enough, they've been disqualified. And like you go back to the start, and like all the cars are on the grid, everyone's qualified. And I think from memory, it was like 1, 2, and 4. They may have qualified all the Redline cars, and for whatever reason, they're all started in the pits. And like the commentators just like they're all mega confused. Like, what's going on? And then like they started the race, and the cars go up in the jacks. And they're like, they put the wrong setup in. Like, what's going on here? And then they've all taken off, and like everyone for like a lap or two was just confused. So like, what is going on here? Like, this is surely like they haven't all put the wrong setup in the car. Like, this seems a bit off. And then they were actually streaming, because the Redline team always streams, especially when they've got Max, because it just pulls views. So like they've got like a good following now. So they're like, they just every chance to do a race, they always stream now.
So if you've got Verstappen, there's not going to be a better stream out there, really, is there? As far as iRacing is concerned.
And they've got a guy, what's his name? His last name's Crane. It's a Mark Crane or something like that. Anyway, he is a commentator for some series, and he commentates for the stream for him, it's a pretty cool setup. So like they'll have all the driver cams on that normally, and then this guy will actually just commentate, and then every now and then he'll talk to a certain driver during the stint, but he'll talk the chat while they're watching all the driver cams and the race footage and whatnot. It's like a pretty good setup. And anyway, they've spoken on the stream about like what they were doing and the fact that when you start with a wet setup and then you switch to dries, your ride height tech passability is different with the wet and the dry setup. So basically what they were doing is they'll start on the wet setup, change into a dry tire, and they'll end up dropping the car 5 mil past what was legal on a dry setup. So they'll getting the car 5 mil lower. So it's pretty crazy. I don't know how people figured this out. Like it's like who stumbles across this? Like that's what I want to know. Like people it's like the grass tipping. Like who the hell figured that out? Like it's all pretty funny. But I don't think it went on for too long from memory. I think it only lasted a couple of laps, and then everyone saw Nim Cross join the server. Next minute, they've been DQ'd from the race. I can't remember. I think they were allowed to finish the race, but they were told they were going to be DQ'd by the end of it because of it. Because they claimed they pinned them for like, one was like cheating and the other one was something to do with exploiting to gain an advantage or something like that. But it's a bit odd. Like you and me spoke before all this, and because I told you that, even in a wet race, if everyone started on wets and then it dried and everyone switched to dries, everyone would still be in the same scenario. So I don't know. But then again, I don't know. Maybe with a normal setup, that wouldn't be the case. Maybe they had tweaked their wet setup so it was slammed, knowing that when they switched to dries, they'd been maybe the setup in a wet situation wouldn't even be that good. You understand what I'm trying to say? Like maybe, I wonder if that's the case or not. Yeah, because like a wet setup might actually still be a bit higher. Like I don't know, but maybe they just it seems really odd, because if it is genuinely how it is and they didn't really tweak the setup in the first place, then you look at it and go, well, at the end of the day, if you start the wet race with a wet setup and then you switch to dry tires, everyone's going to be in the same scenario during the race. So everyone's sort of got to do it unwillingly anyway. Yeah, I don't know. If that is the case, like that seems a bit off. Like, it could. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't call it a mega exploit or a mega cheat, but if they were completely manipulating the setup, so realistically, if the track was wet, the thing would probably be undrivable, knowing that once they switched to dries, it would actually fix the problem. Then I get it, because then you're sort of like, you're pushing it in that direction. But if it's just a genuine, we just loaded with a wet setup and then we changed it to dries and that did it, that's all we did, then you go, okay, I don't know, this isn't really big. Like, it's just the way that it's like, it's odd.
Yeah. I guess a quick summary is they've logged in, they've qualied. Their quali was good enough to earn them first and second on the grid. I think the third car might have been seventh. It was a little bit further down, but you're talking about top speed. It's going to be bugger all between those times, even if they are in seventh. And then they elect to start from pit lane. Race commences. They go up on the jacks, go from wet tires to slick tires, and then go out and essentially gain the advantage of being able to set the car at a lower ride height, therefore more straight line speed, more, I don't know if it necessarily relates to more downforce or whatever in corners, but obviously it was a significant enough margin that they deemed starting from pit lane, so the equivalent of a penalty, was going to be worth it for the 24-hour race. So significant gains to be had from doing it. And, so the question comes, Nim Cross comes in and he's essentially highlighted two rules. One of them talks pretty strongly of cheating, even though it probably doesn't fit the crime, is the general consensus that I got. Talking about cheating in iRacing, although they're not, in my opinion. And the second rule, which he threw in there, which I think talked more about their ability, iRacing's ability to issue a penalty or disqualification because they essentially along the lines of they brought it into disrepute, which is really what happened here, I think. But the question that I'm going to pose to you is in your opinion, we know the outcome now. They've issued the disqualifications. I think it was the last episode we talked about our top 5 controversies. Are you looking at it like it would be worthy of fitting into those? And we were talking about like grass dipping. We were talking about the macros in the V8 supercars. We were talking, a couple other things. We're putting it there. The punishment certainly fits the bill for one of the bigger controversies at least in the iRacing special events of recent times. But are we talking about cheating here, or are we talking about a very, really clever team that sought opportunity and exploited it when no one else could?
Yeah, I don't think it's that big. I don't know. I don't think it's that big. Like I said before, if it was as simple as just grabbing your wet setup and throwing it in there and then just switching the tires, I don't think it's that much of an exploit. Because like I said, like in the case of the race started wet, everybody would be finishing the race in the same situation. Whereas I think if they were tweaking a wet setup right to its limit of passing tech, and then so that way they could get the lowest by manipulating the setup, I think if you're doing it that way, and but even still, given the conversation we had last time about biggest controversies and whatnot, I don't think this is really one of them. I don't know. It's not. This is no different than a team finished in a race and they got their suspension fluffed up, and they just go, "Oh, we finished the race," but they end up getting a DQ because their ride height was out or the weight was out. You know what I mean? It's not a real biggie. It's not like, oh, these guys did a massive modification of the car and they added this out or they hid this out and they took all this out. You know what I mean? Big things you've heard in the past of motorsport and whatnot, and you're like, oh, wow, that was pretty controversial. Always, even with MotoGP and that, you hear of someone get disqualification because they came in too light or their tire pressures were out, or just mechanical things that just happen sometimes. I think this falls into that category, and it's not really that major of a it was obviously intentional, but yeah, I'm like you. I don't think it's that big. And I don't even know. Yeah, I'd say they probably may have deserved a disqualification, but even I'm sort of questioning that and going, oh, maybe not. I don't know. It's all the things in the past we're saying between grass dipping and Williams freaking cutting the oval. This is a little bit different. Other people might not see it that way, but I just see this as a little bit different, a bit weaker on the exploit side.
Well, as unpopular as it might be, it doesn't really matter. I guess Nim Cross is classified it as cheating or whatever. In my mind,
yeah,
I think they're incredibly clever, and
that's what I mean. I want to know, how do people figure this out? You know what I mean?
If we were looking at it like it was F1, you'd be commending them for finding a loophole that no one else could find. And that's happened in F1 across the years. And, I think was it Renault with the blown diffusers or whatever it might be. all other teams have caught up with it and copied it, and then they had to basically bring the rule in post event that basically made them illegal. And that's how I kind of look at it. Like, if you've left the loophole there at the time the green flag drops, if the loophole is there, then and a team's managed to exploit it and no one else hasn't, obviously you need to correct that loophole. But you do it after the event. You go, okay, they got it this time, because it's interesting. Like, these guys are, it is Redline. They're resourceful. They're well stocked with good brains and good racers, obviously. But like, they're leading this thing forward. Like, they've got.
I thought you were going to say they're fully stock of Red Bull.
Yeah. Like, I just think, I don't know, there's plenty of people out there who probably sit there happy to label them cheaters and stuff, but I just think that's what's driving this shit forward, is someone's willing to commit that time to exploit a rule. And it's not exploiting a rule, it's exploiting a loophole that wasn't known by, or from what I can gather, was known by iRacing. The question is, ethically, should they report it if they knew about it, or should they just seek to gain advantage? Which, you only got to look at motorsport in the real world to understand that they're always going to seek to gain advantage. They're not going to report it. Oh, sorry, Nim, I've just identified that you've got this problem here where we can exploit before the race. But, so I don't.
Yeah. It's funny, like, yeah, because at the end of the day, like, you're right. Like, this is more on the fact that iRacing somehow missed this in the past and people were able to do it in the first place. Like, it's, it's kind of one of those things. Like, and in real cars, like, this happens very often. Like, in real racing, like, this happens very frequently. Like, this sort of thing when people come into the end of the race, like, either tire pressure issues or weight issues or height issues, when they get scrutinized on the podium or whatever. But like, these things, I think, are easier to stop from happening in a sim, because they can obviously put a parameter in there that stops people from being able to do things. But yeah, it's a bit odd for them to get DQ'd for it. I think iRacing should have, like, taken it and gone, we need to write this for the future, and so this doesn't happen, because this is obviously something that we shouldn't have allowed to be a thing in the first place. And Nim's probably just DQ'd him out of spite. I don't know. But yeah, it's like I said, I think it's a bit of a weak one as far as exploits go. Like, I don't really think the punishment fits the crime, but at the same time too, they've DQ'd people in the past for certain things, and I think people would probably, even though it's probably on iRacing to fix it, so it can't happen, I think people still would have gotten the shits if they didn't get DQ'd based off past things and how they were handled. They handled it pretty quick, and the fact that they DQ'd him was like, oh wow, okay, they're not mucking around. And
I tell you what, they're bloody lucky that they were the only ones that knew about it. We've seen from the grass dipping that if everyone knew about it, that they wouldn't enforce it till after the race was finished.
To be honest,
that's the difference.
I guarantee they were not the only people that knew about that. It's just, I reckon that was kept. I bet a lot of teams knew that and did that, but just probably was kept pretty hush pretty well. I don't know. People are pretty smart, especially on sim racing when it comes to setups. And I don't know. I find it hard to believe that. I think Redline just balls up, and they've probably known about this for a while. And I think they just balls up because they said it on the stream. But I reckon it's probably.
But do you know? You just. Well, that was going to be my next question. Is why? So if you qualify first and second, what are you telling yourself? Why are you doing this? So you got the front row lockout. why do you feel you still need to do this? So
yeah, that's
you know, if you felt like shit, this could be perceived as cheating or against the rules, but we're first and second on the grid. Why are you still going through with it? Why? Why are you?
Yeah.
That's the thing that I don't understand, and I couldn't see another team out there that was going to just waltz past them and cruise to victory. And that's what I think. I'm like, why risk it all? I don't know iRacing top split and special events. I don't really think there's anything apart from, being able to plant your flag on top of the hill and say you're the winner of the top split. There's really nothing in it for the team. So, well, that's what I don't understand. It's not like a PESC race, for example, that has money on the line or whatnot. Like, I could be wrong. There could be something that I don't know about. And that's the hard part that I don't understand. If you're ninth and 10th on the grid, you roll, let's roll the dice. But they're first and second on the grid. So what on earth could possess them to think that they're going to risk it all for that?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it must have been that much of an advantage that they knew if they did it, the race would be more of a breeze. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, especially especially that track. And if you've got the ability to make your thing a bit more in rails around there, you probably want it. You know what I mean? Like, if it was any other track, you'd be like, you know what I mean? Like, but given that where you can't afford a mistake, especially in the Porsche, I thought the Porsche was probably the one, because it wasn't just all the one car. Like, they were, I think it was Porsche, BMW, maybe Ferrari, or maybe another Porsche. I can't remember, but it was at least a BMW and a Porsche. So it was like different types of cars that they were doing this same thing. And obviously it works between different manufacturers, the GT3 in general thing. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it stops the Porsche from getting that weird tail happy thing that it likes to do on cooked tires by having that extra downforce. Because the Porsche, the more downforce you got on the Porsche, the way better it is with having that problem. So I think that would have benefited the most. BMW I found was a bit odd because that thing is usually a rocket ship around there as is, and usually the easier car to drive. So I don't know. But yeah, who knows? Maybe they just thought it'll be more of a breeze, bit of a safer option, because obviously it would be safer to drive, a bit more downforce and whatnot. But yeah, I agree. When you're the top team, like, why risk that? When you're already qualified quickest, and you know that if you just keep your head down and do it right, you'll get there. But yeah, I don't know. Every time one of these things happens, we never understand why people go through it.
All that we know is that we'll never fully understand why. But we can speculate, and that's what we do. I don't know. I'd be interested to know what everyone else thought, but I'm of the opinion, and I'm almost clapping my hands and going, good, thinking outside the box that much. Now that you mention it, I probably do think that other teams would have known about it. And I tell you what, it wouldn't surprise me if one of them alerted iRacing to it beforehand and tried to press 100%. Them for what would happen in the scenario if we started on wets and then started in pit lane. What would happen? And force the response of you'd get a DQ. But okay, sweet. And just let the other team, you know what I mean?
Here's a little hot take for you. Imagine, right? Let's just imagine that Verstappen, which is funny because they got a weekend off this weekend. Imagine if he chose to do that race and if this happened, like the mainstream media, could you imagine them spinning this? Max Verstappen gets caught cheating because they took his sim shit last time when he went through. What was it? When he took that guy out, during one of the top split races.
Oh
He
yeah,
punted the guy.
that's right. That was Spa.
Yeah,
Wasn't
he
it
punted the
coming up to-
PGZ. Yeah, he punted
the back of the kennel
PGZ
straight.
racing guy. And could you imagine like this if he was in that race? They would have taken it and spun the shit out of it. Like, oh, Max got caught cheating. Oh. That's it.
You
Give
say,
him a race ban.
Well, it wasn't Verstappen. It was Franz Hermann.
Yeah,
It was his alias.
The way he's going, he's going to use that identity soon to go racing.
Yeah, well, he's only got 1 point left on his license before he gets a race ban in F1 as well. So
yeah,
and, good on him. I have just sidebar. I have been loving F1 this year. Like,
it's actually been good.
I have been up at the detriment of my own work, which is cool. It's cool with me. I've been up every single race I've watched live. It's just been obviously Oscar doing the way he's going and doing the things that he's doing. It's been awesome. But yeah, there is some sort of drama or fallout in every race that you don't want to. When you wake up the morning after, you don't want to try and be like, how come I don't understand what they're talking about? Like, it's been really good.
I know. Yeah. Oscar's just on like absolute robotic autopilot at the moment, and just cruising his way to like a season win. But yeah, the drama between freaking Max and whoever he's running into that race. Oh, it's been so funny. Like, and even his interviews and that have just been so funny as well. Like, it's very comedic.
Just doesn't back down at all.
It's good.
Goes, I'm not going to apologize for it. Like, and then someone gets him like 2 days later and be like, Max, you probably should apologize for just like absolutely just hip and shoulder and George off the track. But you know what? Like, I don't know. I just find it hilarious because of the history he's got with George Russell. But anyway, like, he's just like, whatever. I'm just gonna
absolutely
put it all on the line. But yeah, I think it's hilarious. It's been such a good season. So if F1 suspend him, he'll just, instead of racing the Grand Prix that weekend, he'll probably just race iRacing instead. So
yeah,
power to him.
Exactly.
Oh well. So that's the fall. That was a big fallout from the 24-hour this particular time round. Like I said, splits are still going, but
I don't know. Was that really the big fallout? Like, how did your 24-hour go? That's what I want to know.
Personally, yeah, good.
Oh, no. No. Yours, your team. How did your team go?
Well, if we think Redline made questionable decisions about qualifying on pole and then taking the risky strategy that they did, we made a questionable decision about trying to race the Porsche Cup car around the Nürburgring for 24 hours, which went about as well as what I thought it was going to go, really, to be honest. But I think you led the charge about 2 weeks ago trying to recruit a team to undertake the 24-hour race, and then like the true magician you are, smoke bombed and no one heard of you.
Well, I think the funny thing was because I kind of left the hang. Yeah, literally, I smoke bombed it and left because the thing was it was like I'll tell you what, it was a smoke bomb full of like shrapnel because like literally I was the one that said, "Oh, peak up anyone?" Like, for it. I was keen. I'm like, yeah, so it's from the peak up, and then everyone was all like, "Oh yeah, let's do that," and then I had a surgery that come up, so I had to change my availability. But yeah, it was just funny. You got it was kind of like it went quiet too, and then it was like the day of. It felt like I was reading the Discord 100%. And you guys were all just like out of the blue, like let's do it. I'm like, far out, are they going to do it? Like, they starting tonight? Like, you like literally organised a full spreadsheet within a couple of hours of the race before it started. I was wow, that's committed.
As experience tells us, whenever we've tried to be organised 2 weeks out, we'll get a full list of drivers and cars and allocate the splits 2 weeks out, and then come day of, it just all goes to absolute crap, and people drop out and cancel and things come up. So we went reverse this time, and we organised it 3 hours before the race, not on purpose. I tell you now, I logged on to do some laps Tuesday night, and I was prepping for another Porsche Cup series, and I thought, I don't want to borrow this for the 24-hour. Like, I was not keen on taking on after feeling the VRS set. I'm like, this is really lively. I'm not confident with this at all. But anyways, the day of, a couple of guys in the team decide we're gonna tackle it. Two of our stronger guys in the team, and they were short, so I'm like, okay, reluctantly, all right, I'll do it. I was trying to save myself for today's podcast because I was pumped up, and as it was, like, it's not eventuated anyway. So we had a crack. We went in the 6 p.m. split on the Saturday, so pretty strong split. I don't know what split we were in. I never looked. In the Porsche Cups, I'd tell you what was high though. It would have been 2 or 3, split 2 or 3, I reckon, because there was 6K guys in there. But I think the team qualified 5th in the Porsche Cup out of 11 or 12 cars, and by the time I got out at 2 o'clock this morning, we were in P4, mate, and all was rosy. I think we'd already used up 50 of our 100 incident points though, but unfortunately, the car found the fence at about 3:30 in the morning, so in a rather brutal way. What are you you're scrolling back through the messages, are you?
I'm actually on the app. I'm trying to figure out what split you're in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I know it will tell me. So you were in split 2. Yeah, split 2.
Yeah. It felt like it. It felt like we were high.
Yeah.
Because, the cars that were travelling in first, second, and third were just, they were smashing me, which is no great claim, that's for sure. But, even Haydos, one of our, he dedicates his whole iRacing life to the Porsche Cup car. He was struggling just to match those guys, and they had a whole team lapping in that pace. So,
I think
we were tracking. We're tracking well in 4th.
I think given one thing that worked really well for, I think, most of yours was the fact that majority of yours, probably not majority, because I think the fact that very many of yours were pretty consistent in the Porsche Cup lately probably worked a bit well in your favour. I think if we hadn't been doing that league in the Porsche Cup recently, or the fact that we've just been driving the Porsche Cup a lot recently, I think if that wasn't a thing, this would have been brutal. Actually, to be honest, if that wasn't a thing, I don't think you would have gone ahead with running the Porsche Cup. I think you would have gone something else. It's just everyone's got Porsche fever at the moment because they're running it all the time.
Yeah. That's what it happens. Like, it is, isn't it? Like, we sort of move around all the time in our team. We really don't have one particular car locked down. It's just one season it's V8s, the next season it's GT3, and the season after that it's Porsche Cup or whatever it might be. We move around, so we like the variety, don't we? So
I think realistically in the future, because you've got that Creventic series. The Creventic Endurance Series. So it's GT3, Porsche Cup, I think GT4, I think is what it is. Or maybe TCR, or maybe both. Anyway, it's very similar to the Nürburgring class setup. But they've got a few races throughout the year, throughout different circuits and whatnot, where there's a 24, I think, in Barcelona. And then they recently had a 12-hour at Mugello. I reckon like if the guys are keen, like for doing endurance races in the Porsche Cup, might be worth looking at trying to do some of those, because they're every couple of months. They're not special events. They're just every couple of months. There's one on over a weekend. You're already shaking your head. You're like, I'm not doing that again in the Porsche Cup. I honestly want to do an endurance race.
When you said if the guys are keen to do endurance racing in the Porsche Cup, I'm like, no, that's a dreadful combination. Yeah, just leave me with the sprint races. Just leave me with the sprint races in the Porsche Cup. Oh dear. Yeah. Well, let's move on to segment 2. That's enough with the N24 hour. That was there's going to be plenty more fallout to come with that one, but not a great result for us. We retired about 12 hours into the race, I think, from P4, so a bit of a disaster. Although I thought, how are we going to pull off a podium is all I could think at 2 a.m. coming P4, about a minute behind P3, having done, I think, 3 laps in preparation. 3 whole laps. I did try about 10 laps. I only made it to the end on 3. Anyway, but, N24 hour aside, there's been lots of other things happening in iRacing since our last episode. Because we are talking a little bit about the Porsche Cup, I want to dive into the Porsche Esports Super Cup. So, since our last episode, that has now finished for the season, and it's awesome to say that Cooper Webster has taken out the Porsche Esports Super Cup and over Jordan Caruso in second. So it was an all Aussie title fight down to the last round. So another feather in our cap, so to speak. We've caught, as you said before, Packets, we've caught Porsche Cup fever, but I don't think the rest of Australia's caught Porsche Cup fever. But nevertheless, awesome to see Cooper take out that series. That was a huge result.
Yeah, I actually watched the final race, and it was actually like really good to watch. Because they do 2 sprint races. It was at Le Mans, and he got it done in the first race. And I think in the second race, I'm pretty sure his race was pretty much done and dusted after like the 4th corner. There was a massive crash.
He got a post-race penalty too.
Yeah, so it was penalty. Luckily it was done. Yeah, luckily it was done and dusted in the first race because that could have gone south really bad. But it was good to see, and it's good to see like a lot more Aussies in there now too, like especially ones that are at the front. But yeah, you're right. Like I think, like obviously the Porsche Cup isn't as big in Australia as what like supercars and that is. There's a lot of supercars leagues out there. There's a few Porsche Cup leagues out there, I guess. But Porsche Cup is just, and it's probably because of the fact that, PESC is such a well-covered and well-sponsored thing by Porsche themselves. It's probably why it's so big over in Europe and the rest of the world. But yeah, in Australia, it feels like a hidden gem sometimes. Like, not many people really like it. Like, I think even yourself, like, maybe you saying that you love the supercar, but Porsche Cup, I think you said once that like you like it, but you just can't come to terms with it compared to a supercar. But now, obviously, it's very different now. You love it now. But yeah, it's taken
a couple of seasons of complete. I mean, I can't say complete devotion. I don't race. I race once or twice a week, really, but I'm only doing the Porsche Cup car, and it's taken 2 seasons of that to actually start to understand it. I don't know whether that's because I had such a big grounding in V8s that I just couldn't come to comprehend the Cup car, and that made it harder for me. But I really enjoy it now, and there's something really to the simplistic nature of it as well in terms of the setup. That you never, the V8 supercar, if you were logging into a race and you didn't have VRS or whatever, if you don't have a setup, for that particular track, you're going to be nowhere. But at least with the Cup car, you can mould something pretty quickly. I kind of feel it's approachable in that regard, in the setup regard, if the driving style is a little bit difficult. But having devoted 2 seasons to it now, I feel like I'm starting to understand it and really enjoy it. And there's definitely been some guys convert from supercar over to the Cup car, but they typically get lost back into the officials and not necessarily into league racing.
Yeah, I find that with setups on the Porsche Cup, I mean, like with the new supercar, I suppose it's a bit more relatable. The previous one, not so much, but with the setups, I find, say, comparing VRS to Apex on the Porsche Cup, because Hayden, which is arguably our fastest driver in a Porsche Cup, he will run VRS only, whereas I run Apex, and he doesn't like the Apex setups. He reckons it just feels weird. He won't ever elaborate on how it feels weird, but it just feels weird. But me personally, I prefer the Apex setups, and the biggest difference for me between the setups is the Apex setup allows you to steer the car into the corner, while being very tedious on the exit and very easy to light up. And sort of it's hard to get drive out of corners. Whereas Apex setups, and they're always like this compared to the VRS setups, bit of understeer on entry, so you can't dive it in. Very grippy on the rear end on the exit, so you're allowed to steer with the rear tyre on the exit. And it's funny, I find that that's the preferred way I like to drive the Porsche Cup, is by steering it with the rear on the exit. I just find it a little bit more drivable for me having that understeer on the entry. But I've always found with setups, it's always one of those two ways is usually where it lies. It's like, what do you want? You want to be able to turn in, or do you want the grip on the exit and steer it out that way? Like yeah. And I feel like the new supercar is kind of like that between fixed and actual setups. The fixed are usually a bit more understeery, whereas it's got a bit more grip on the rear. But then, the actual setups you pay for, normally they'll turn each better, but you're going to be very light on the throttle on exit because they'll light up really easily. Whereas the old car was nothing like that. But yeah, it is a lot more user-friendly, I think. You can just slap a fixed setup there and be relatively competitive, whereas like the old supercar, you could never do that, like ever.
Yeah. It's a high attrition type car as well. But if we were just to circle back quickly to and why the reason why I make that point is if you are just taking an iRacing setup, you might be a couple of tenths off the pace, but typically if you can just keep it clean, you're going to move forward because being a no assist car and whatnot, it's your high attrition rate's going to mean that you're going to gain positions. Obviously, as you get up the splits, that's obviously going to change, but I also like the fact that the tyres play a big part in it because, I feel like being kind to your tyres and stuff yields results, and especially if you're doing anything over a 40-minute race and or a 30-minute race, which is where I've seen a lot of my gains of late in the car. So is in those longer form races. But back to PES just quickly. This season's conclusion was the season number 7. So, we had Josh Rogers take out season 1. He also took out season 3. Jordan Caruso took out season 5. And then Cooper Webster's taken out season 7. So, of the 7 seasons, 4 of them have gone to Australian drivers, which is just freaking awesome. Just that's such a cool. I just think that's such a cool stat. Cooper's season this year, I think he had a couple of wins, 2 or 3 wins, and a lot of top 10s. So just consistency really got him there. But Jordan's obviously finished runner up and he won it 2 seasons ago. So it's good to see that he's still on the prowl. Unfortunately, when he won it, he was with Altus Esports, which was an Australian team, but we don't see an Australian team at that level anymore, which is a shame, really, isn't it?
I find it really weird. Well, not weird, but probably amazing more than anything, but that we've had that many Aussies win it when our ping would be some of the worst for having close, hard racing with the rest of the people in that race, in that series. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, how many weird netcode things that could easily happen from like a 2 meter gap, you know what I mean? Like for these guys, and they've managed to win it. It's actually amazing that they've managed to win without any of that sort of shit stopping them.
Yeah. I'm going to talk about it now because I don't think it's going to happen, although I would like to make it happen one day. One of my greatest regrets was I got so close to getting Simon Feigl to come on the podcast and talk about Altus Esports, and because Josh Rogers was part of Coanda, and in the Coanda house, I believe he may not have been for the first championship, but I think he was for the second championship over in Germany or Europe somewhere. But it would have been interesting to be able to ask them those questions, like those dudes are getting up at Cooper and Jordan in particular, who still live in Australia. Well, I believe Cooper definitely does. Yeah. I know Jordan definitely did when he won his title. It's like they're getting up at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. going racing, and like you said, like the ping would be a huge factor.
Yeah, massively.
So it would be nice one day to have him on. They obviously Altus went to some pretty good heights as far as getting on the world stage. I believe they also got into the Coca-Cola Cup, or the NASCAR side of the professional esports racing as well. So we haven't seen an Australian team get back there again yet, but that was pretty crazy, and obviously another level entirely to what we see the big Australian teams at now.
Yeah. So, we're starting actually. Well, yeah, you're starting to see some big names in teams now too. Like, you've got like the Travis Pastrana racing team now as well, and they've been racing in NASCAR. So I think, I don't think Casey Cohen races for them in NASCAR. I'm pretty sure he only races for him in the LMDH, the GTPs. But yeah, they've got the Travis Pastrana racing team now, racing in iRacing. And yeah, they've snapped up a few drivers for certain series now.
And he makes a few more of those videos. Was it the what's his? I can't say it. What's the Japanese word? Shimkana or whatever videos.
Oh yeah.
Travis Pastrana. Yeah, where it's always like him jumping through the city and stuff like that in his car. Anyway, Gymkhana or whatever it's called.
That was Ken Block.
Was it?
It was Ken Block. Yeah.
Well, because Pastrana was always Subaru, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. He's got his own ones too. Or is that?
Oh, is he?
Yeah, I think he does, because Ken Block was Ford. Yeah, never mind. Anyway,
Ken Block started with Subaru initially, didn't he? Yeah, I'm positive he did.
Yeah, maybe.
I think the first one was him with the Subaru, and then he went there. Then he went at Ford.
Well, we got sidetracked a little bit there, but obviously, big congrats to Cooper and Jordan to another great season, and we stuck. Even though we hadn't recorded many podcasts, we were following that for a lot of the year, and it's good to keep talking about that and keep putting it on everyone's radar to make them aware that there is Aussies out there racing in the wee hours of the morning. in the European leagues and doing really, really well. But moving on from that, perhaps the biggest news that sort of dropped a couple of weeks ago now in the iRacing scene has been the developers blog. So not an official patch notes as of yet, I don't believe, but iRacing developer blogs have released. We're currently week 11, so we've still got another week to go before we start. We're start.
We're in week 12
now, are we?
Yeah. We're about to be 13 in like 2 days.
Oh, right. Yep. Okay. So we will start to see a little bit more of the actual renders and pictures and footage and stuff come to life of these new inclusions that are coming up in the upcoming build. But perhaps I can give a quick summary of packets, and then we can talk about a couple of the interesting parts here and from the blog. But I've summarized it, and we're just going to quickly summarize the track updates that are coming. So they broke it down in the blog. They talked about noticeable rescan tracks, upcoming tracks that are going to be refreshed or rescanned, and then the new tracks that are coming as part of this next patch. So the noticeable rescan tracks: Iowa Speedway, Richmond Speedway, Sonoma, and Worldwide Technology Raceway. It's another oval, IndyCar oval. Charlotte Motor Speedway and the North Wilkesboro Speedway. So they're tracks that are going to be, well, they've been rescanned. Possibly from me, the pick of the bunch there, well, the ones that's only relevant to me is the Sonoma Raceway.
Yeah. Do you reckon that with the rescan that they'll have grass on it and it'll be green instead of like the shitty dried out look? Because depending on what season it is, like when the GTs and that go racing there, when it's in the better time of the year, the place is green as, and it's just grass everywhere.
Yep. It's completely I remember I didn't know much about Sonoma before I jumped on iRacing. iRacing was the first time I'd ever seen the track or ever watched something on it or whatever. And then when I actually then went to see the GT America Series race around, I'm like, I don't recognize this place. It looked completely different. And it was just literally because of the grass. Yeah.
Yeah.
But despite all that, I actually really liked the track. It was quite a good one. It is a good track. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All the undulation changes.
Yes. No,
so
it's definitely
as far as the
track.
rescan, as far as the rescans go, that stands out to me as one that I'll be like, that's going to be really cool. It's sort of, when I sort of broke it down, one of the reasons they gave was it required multiple scans due to a dynamic repave project that was undertaken on the real life track. So I'm not 100% sure what that means, but probably a compound change on the tarmac. It seems there's a couple other tracks that they've got in. They've got a similar note, which they had to repave certain sections to accommodate new series that were going there. So, but the rest of it seems to be raceways, ovals, IndyCar tracks. Obviously, I would say there's a bit of an IndyCar tone in this upcoming build. Obviously, iRacing getting the rights back there has probably got a lot of to play with that.
Trying to go, look, we are doing something with this series, so keep the license with us.
Yeah. If we're going to get IndyCar back, we can't have a track that was last scanned 10 years ago.
Yep.
So, but unless you're doing any oval racing at the moment, the rest of those tracks I think aren't. They'll be relevant to people, but not to what we're racing at the moment. Then it went on to say that in future builds, the Circuit of the Americas, Darlington, Daytona, Indianapolis, Lime Rock Park, again, Phoenix and Texas are all in the process of being rescanned. So this will be the third iteration of Lime Rock since I've been on the service, I believe.
I got really excited then. I thought you were saying they were going to get rid of Coda.
And it's just going to be reskinned.
That is the shittest track. I don't care what anyone says. I've never driven that track
and
enjoyed it ever.
You're going to offend some people with that comment. There's
it's a horrible
DM Max packets
horrible.
of your complaints. I don't mind it in the high speed cars. It's like pulling teeth in slow speed cars.
Yeah, F4 or prototype.
Yeah, I'd go higher. Like higher than F4. That is prototype. Yes, you're looking at the USF Formula car and upwards and new prototypes. I can handle it. It's just because there's so much aero required to get through some of those corners. It's not fun in cars with no aero. Anyway, so they're on the horizon, but obviously the big news is they're going to give us a brand new track, and that is your favourite, the Bend Motorsport Park. So how excited are you to hear about the Bend coming to iRacing?
Since when has it been my favourite? Oh, hang on. I did shit talk this when it got announced, didn't I?
It might be sarcasm, mate. I think it's... You bagged it out when basically
I actually will get it, and I actually am excited about it. Main reason being is because more Australian tracks, the better. Every time we get an Australian track, it's one more track closer to actually having a proper supercar series within iRacing. That's obviously the end goal for a lot of leagues where they could have Australian proper series. And I think I was more bummed out to hear that they weren't releasing Adelaide. I wanted, because they scanned them at the same time. And I was like, because one thing I've always said is we need more street tracks. We need more street tracks. Street tracks are so good on iRacing. And I'm bummed that we haven't had the new Detroit, because that's been out for a good couple of years now. And we haven't had that yet. So when they announced Adelaide, I'm like, sweet. And then they scanned the Bend like a couple of days after or before. It was within the same couple of weeks they scanned it because it was while they were out here. So, yeah, I was a bit bummed to find out it wasn't that. But even still, like I said, I'll still get it and I'll still race it because I think there's a lot of versions of this track where you'll find something that'll be fun on there.
Yeah, they've got all iterations of the track, all layouts, and including the 7.7 kilometer GT layout. So, that'll be an interesting one.
That'll be an interesting one.
It's taken me. Yeah, it's what's been interesting to me is Pukekohe was announced first. We haven't heard anything more.
Yeah. Nah, dead,
Yeah, and Adelaide and the Bend were believed to be scanned at the same time, from memory. I'm going off memory. But the Bend was the one that advertised it on their signage at the track, that iRacing, they had the big welcome to iRacing there.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then lo and behold, they're first to actually hit the service, even though they're probably one of the later last ones again. So, obviously, I don't pretend to know a whole lot of the behind the scenes of the real world motorsport, but the people behind the Bend Motorsport Park are really pushing their track and their products and motorsport in general in Australia very hard. So,
you wouldn't know. They could have possibly funded something towards it or sponsored something towards it because, like the Bend, how many GT cars do you see at special races, whether it's a Spa 24 hour, like real life races where there's a GT3 that's sponsored by the Bend. I I want to know. I don't know how you get sponsored by a circuit. I don't know how that works. It seems really odd because normally when you get sponsored by a business, not sponsored by a track. I've never understood that. I don't know if there's just something I'm not putting together right, but I don't know if you know the answer to that or not.
I think one of the family members of the owners of the track races in the car in those pro-am entries, but like I said, I don't pretend to know. I just know that they've got the family and stuff that behind it are putting a lot of money into racing in Australia, and it's not just at the Bend or those cars that you do see pop up out there. So there's definitely some people of the friends of the podcast that know a lot more about that than me. And so they're promoters. They're seen as promoters. I think in general for motorsport in Australia is the people behind the Bend. So it hits the service first, but we hope that Adelaide and Pukekohe are not too far behind because, like you said, that is going to give us when those two hit. That's going to then we're looking at nearly a full season of Australian tracks.
The way, it's a bit odd that Pukekohe's taken so long because that was scanned when that track got put in decommission.
Close.
Actually, it was just after, in between the final supercar round, which Gizzy was still racing with him at that time. That was in they were still Commodores actually when they were racing there the last. So, and it was before the end of that season. So it's a couple of years ago now.
It's not like they can go back and rescan
it. Well, you can, but it's going to be hard to get a scan. It's all overgrown. It looks like shit. So it's
all right. Well, I am looking forward to the Bend. That's going to be a day one purchase for me. Which I haven't had a lot of day one purchases of late with all the new updates. So I'm looking forward to that one very much. But if we were to jump into the cars now that are coming to the service, we've got there's two brand new cars, really. There's the Ferrari 296 Challenge series, which is the single make series, and the Gen 4 Chevy Monte Carlo and Ford Taurus, which is, I think, a 2003 model. Obviously, NASCAR or they're another historic version.
Yeah, it's the proper Gen 4, I think.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about it, not being an oval racer, but it's one of these past historic cars that are coming to the service. Yep. So, oval races might be interesting. Oh, is it?
I'm pretty sure it's about that time, I think. Yeah.
Wow. I just remember the Ford Taurus as being like this family sedan car that was just not inspiring as a race car at all. But anyway, the Ferrari 296 Challenge, interesting one. The car itself, I think, is a cool car, but it's another single make championship coming to iRacing. And it's kind of the questions I have is it sustainable for another single make championship?
I look at it and go, Ferrari fixed races are usually an absolute punt fest. That 50% of the people usually get DQ'd, and the other 50% of the people are usually about to get DQ'd. So why would you give them a faster car for a D class?
Yeah, that's 7-speed gearbox in it.
It's almost a GTE, I guess. Like the way it is.
That's sure, great, but I don't know if it's going to make any difference than just having the GT3 version 296 in there. But cool to have it, I suppose. But I just sort of thought that one I'm not going to go out and purchase because, I never really run the Ferrari GT3, but not for me. I think I would sooner step back and race the BMW M2.
Have you driven that thing?
Not enough, I would say. Like I've just had it. I had a couple of laps in it, and I know it's quite
like
fun,
it?
but I did. Not that I was
it's
particularly
very
quick
loose.
in it. But yeah, and I'm like,
It's very
I could
loose.
see myself going back to.
Yeah, it's kind of like driving a GT4, but a little go-kart version that's very snappy. And one thing that and you'll laugh this because you just know how I am of random noises and whatnot, but like one thing that really made me like laugh about it and enjoy it when I drove it is when you back off, the backfire noise that it makes sounds like someone banging on an empty bin, like a metal bin, like it's or someone like someone banging on a drum or something like that. Next time you drive it and you back off and you hear that noise, you'll laugh because you know exactly what I'm trying to say. But yeah, I've driven a couple of races with that on my other account, trying to get a rookies, and I actually find it really enjoyable. I actually enjoyed it more than the MX-5. Yeah, it's actually a really cool car. But yeah, the new Ferrari. I'm like you. I don't get it. I probably won't buy it. Like I only bought the 296, and I haven't even driven that in any official race. I just bought it to. I don't even know why I bought it. I think I bought it to test it for Premiere, and that was it. But the funny thing, this is always comes back to the Facebook comments or social media comments of people who just have no idea what they're talking about. But like when they announced that, the comments were all like, "Oh, but another one. Oh, I've bought every Ferrari. You change a Ferrari every 6 months, and I've got to buy them every time." Blah blah blah. And I'm like, no, it's not a GT3. Like this isn't for GT3.
Yeah.
Like it's just funny, and like they don't understand. They're like, "Oh, what do you mean?" Like,
You see Ferrari 296 and you don't read beyond it.
Yes, but I don't get it. I don't understand why they want to give D-Class, which is the most brutal series. Like, Basic Ollie did a video a couple months ago, and it was him trying to race the Ferrari fix and see how bad it actually was. And I think the first three races, I'm pretty sure he DQ'd within the first couple of corners. Like he just, it's a punt. We've raced it before. We've raced it before. It's a punt fest. Like it'll never change. And now you've just given them a faster car to do it with.
That's why we raced it, because it's a punt fest. We wanted to buy that. Yeah. Anyway, all right. So they're the new cars, but let me just rattle off a little bit about the updates that they're bringing to some of the other cars. So they're talking about an IndyCar overhaul. That makes sense, right? They just got the license back for IndyCar. They're going to update that model that they've currently got to the current spec. Then now they're really taunting hard the GT3 overhaul that they're bringing. So some of the stuff that they're bringing in this GT3 overhaul is aerodynamics and tire updates. Aerodynamics fully overhauled using CFD modeling, affecting ride height, ignored wing effects. Tires now more resilient to sliding, with better grip and recovery post spin. Lower pit lane tire temps. The fastest lap will be around lap 4 or 5 on a new set of tires. So it's going to sort of hinting that it's going to take longer to come into the window. And you will need to do more time management. So obviously the way you treat your tires is they'll drop off faster if you're particularly aggressive. Softer vertical spring rates, some real X's and O's stuff here, talking about ride height and stuff. But what it all basically boils down to is that it's going to completely void all your setups now.
It's pretty common with GT3. Like even if they do a slight aero change, like every season, the last 2 seasons they've actually haven't done anything. But prior to that, it felt like every season I couldn't use setups prior to that because they were constantly changing something with the ride height or the aero. Yeah. So that setup would be fail and tech every time. But I did actually watch James Baldwin's video. So I can't remember who he races for, but he's driven actual GT3s before, but he's a sim racer mainly. But he's driven like Spa in a Porsche GT3, and he got access to the update prior to it being released, because apparently he had a lot of input within the developing team with doing the new tyre model. And he went through it and whatnot. And from what I've seen and what happened in the video and how he's explained it all and whatnot, basically cold tyres very similar to the GTPs now. So very skatey, very loose on the first couple of laps. There was even one point there going through Puyong where the thing just went out on him on cold tyres and he wasn't even really pushing that hard, and then he had to try and catch it. So the first couple of laps are going to be very slow on the start of a race now, for everyone. But then the biggest thing is those moments when you get oversteer, where you've like driven it and like heated your tires up. So what he did was he did a massive skid, and then you know yourself already what happens on the next corner when you try to drive it. The thing just wants the 360 through the corner. It doesn't do that now. The tires will actually cool back down, and you can drive it out of it, and then they'll come at normal temperature. But the biggest thing is when you do get slides now, is it's a lot more drivable and catchable, which is I'm really excited for. And it wasn't until I thought about it, but I'm really keen for that with the 992 GT3, because that thing, when the tires get a little bit hot, the rear end does that little weird overtake thing on third, fourth gear corners. Mainly fourth gear corners when you're fully macking it. And I just hope, because the 991 was the same, 992 probably wasn't as bad. I just hope that this fixes it, because that was obviously an issue with tire temp. I hope this fixes it. But yeah, I'm pretty keen to see, like, because some of the cars are very oversteery. The Lambo is going to be one for me. I'm going to call it now and say that the Lambo is going to be like an absolute dominant car next season. I don't know. Ooh. I feel like the Lambo is going to be a new gem. Yeah. I could be wrong, but yeah.
It does seem like a significant shake-up where it could just retest. I must admit I'm not up to date with where the current GT3s are. But yes, I agree. Like, it needed a shake-up. And there needs to be, anything that can bring a little bit more back to the driver to make the difference with the GT3 cars is going to be good, I think. Yeah. Like, you know, they're kind of a little bit too much point and shoot for me at this point in time, and bring a little bit more like how they're talking about tires. You know, if you bring you work on the tire correctly, bring it into lap 4 and 5, where you should, in theory, be setting your quickest lap, rather than try and set it in laps to, 1, 2, and 3. You're going to have a longer tire life, like that type. Anything that brings that level of immersion to it, that's what that class needs, in my opinion. And
it's gonna be a weird adjustment,
a little bit more variety to it,
because it'll be weird for me, because you know what I'm like usually on a race start. I like to make up as many positions as I can with the congestion. It's a big thing for me. I know a lot of people get the shits of that, and they're like, "Oh, you can't win at the first corner." Like, but I've always done very, I don't know, pulled a rabbit out of the hat kind of things with that, and made up a lot of spots. And I've had a lot of luck with trying to do that in the first lap. It's going to be very hard now, because you're just not going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I'm going to try and do that. I'm just going to understeer straight into someone and take them out.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very different. But I think, like I said, it needed to happen. They are very point and shoot, like what you're saying, and they're just numb, and it needs a change up where it does come back to the driver and how you manage your tires.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I think that's a positive there's some positives coming in the new build, which we're not too far away now, as you were saying. In the next week or so, we should find out, and hopefully it is. They've put a lot of effort into explaining what they've done, so let's hope that it actually comes to fruition and it's a big positive overall change. Get a little bit of spice back into that racing series. But yeah, that they were the main talking points that I had for the upcoming season build. So look, I think in lieu of us having not done an episode for a couple of months, and we're obviously not got our special guest here this week, but we will hopefully in the not too distant future. But I think with all that being said, Packets, I reckon we can go ahead and wrap this one up for episode number 22. Unless you have any last comments.
Yeah, I do. I've got one thing. Well, you just said like our special guest wasn't here. I thought I was the special guest, but obviously I'm not.
I think it was you in the last episode that was complaining that I was still referring to you as a guest and not a co-host.
Yeah,
you want a little bit of a status change. Yeah.
No, I wasn't upset. I was just confused. I'm like, how many times you got to be a guest before you're not actually a guest?
Well, that's it. I have to change my intro now to just include you as a co-host. But as you know, you're pouring out another expensive glass of red wine there on your casting couch. But I've got a feeling we'll be back pretty shortly once we can lock in another date for our guest to come back on, and we'll get Packets asking him all the tough questions. But other than that, I think that's going to do us for now. Thanks once again for tuning back in to episode 22 of the Sim Racing in Focus podcast. If you're stuck by us for the last 3 months while we haven't produced anything, thank you very much. And we will get some more content to you shortly. I'll give a little bit of an update from the Sim Racing in Focus side of things. The website is currently back down, so no website at the moment. It is just really purely the podcast coming at you now, so unsure whether that's going to go live again in the future, but just a time thing, obviously, with being able to produce some stuff, but hopefully we can get back there in the not too distant future. But otherwise, you can still find us out on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok now, even though we've only got 2 videos there. Hopefully you'll see some more shorts from the podcast pop up there. And Packets, you're just can be found in all your normal places, looking at chasing butterflies over there on the
lounge. Yep.
Yeah. Max Packets on Facebook. And but he's very quiet at the moment. So nevertheless, thanks once again for tuning back in, and it's bye for now.